In my journey to build every character from Smash Bros and D&D, it's time to dive into Earthbound and build Ness in Dungeons & Dragons. He's basically a boy genius. He gets Pika Fire, Pika Thunder, and he has some interesting shielding abilities and some telekinetic abilities. Starting with the species, I was tempted to lean into his smaller nature, go with something like a gnome or a dwarf, but he's a human, and I'm just going to go with that. So we're going to choose human, just make sure you choose a smaller size. And being a human, you get the feature resourceful, so you get heroic inspiration once per long rest. You get skillful, so you gain 1 skill proficiency. We're just going to grab history because you're a boy genius, and that's an intelligence-based skill, and you get an origin feat. We're just going to go with lucky. This gives you a number of luck points equal to your proficiency bonus, which you can use to give yourself advantage on a d20 check, or force an enemy to have disadvantage on an attack roll against you. Then, as far as a background, we're going to go with Spellfire Initiate. This gives us skill proficiencies in Arcana and Perception. It helps the ability scores that we really care about, and it gives us the feat Spellfire Spark. And Spellfire Spark fits especially well with Ness, because it gives you the feature Magic Absorption. And Ness has this shield he can pop up, especially in Smash Bros, that absorbs certain things coming at him. So once per turn with Magic Absorption, when you take damage from a spell or magical effect, you can reduce the total damage taken by 1d4. You also gain the feature Spellfire Flame, which you can look at as another form of Pika Fire. This allows you to gain the Sacred Flame cantrip, and you can cast it as a bonus action if you want to, a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. But you can always use it as an action. Then, when it comes to a class, we need to focus on an intelligence-based build. So we're going to go with a wizard. This gives us some spell casting right away, so let's dive into the cantrips and first level spells. We need Blade Ward to block more stuff coming at us. Then for Pika Fire, we're going to grab Create Bonfire and Firebolt. And for some Pika Thunder, we'll grab Lightning Lure. But there's one key thing that we might be missing, and that's the baseball bat he tends to swing. So if you have a quarterstaff, being a wizard, you can use True Strike and use that to swing a home run bat to knock an enemy off the platform. And then when it comes to first level spells, we want to make sure that we can absorb as much coming at us with the unique shield that you see pop up in Smash Bros. And grab the spell Absorb Elements, which you can use as a reaction and absorb some elemental damage. Then grab some additional basic stuff like Mage Armor to boost up your armor class to 13 plus your dexterity modifier, and Shield to pop up a shield, giving you a +5 to armor class for the turn. You can also throw in some Chromatic Orb for some random elemental damage, Witch Bolt for another Pika Fire, but you can also think of this as that weird electrical thing you shoot out and can track down enemies because it actually latches onto an enemy even if you hit or miss. Then as for the wizard's features, you get Ritual Adept, so you have better time casting ritual spells without actually needing to have them prepared. You can have Arcane Recovery to recover some spell slots on a short rest, and then at second level, you get Scholar, giving you expertise in 1 skill. We're going to boost up your Arcana. Then at third level of Wizard, you get access to second level spells. So because you're from Earthbound, we'll grab Earthbind, locking an enemy down, Mind Spike to do some psychic damage, and leaning into more psychic damage, go with Tasha's Mind Whip, and finally, Scorching Ray for another Pika Fire. Then also at third level of Wizard, you get to choose a wizard subclass. Most of the basic stuff that Ness can do is covered by any wizard subclass, but he does have some pretty solid shielding ability. He's got a shield that absorbs damage, and he's got other ways to block stuff. So I think a great subclass to go with is an abjurer. This gives you the feature Abjuration Savant, so you can choose 2 wizard spells from the Abjuration School that are automatically added to your stuff. We'll grab Ward Away, so you can hurl some disorienting magic at an enemy, and Arcane Vigor, so you have a way to heal yourself even as a wizard. But one of the biggest parts of being an abjurer is the third level feature, Arcane Ward, so you can weave magic around yourself for protection. And when you cast an abjuration spell with a spell slot, you can simultaneously use a strand of the spell's magic to create a ward on yourself that lasts until you finish a long rest. The ward has a hit point maximum equal to twice your wizard level plus your intelligence modifier. Whenever you take damage, the ward takes the damage instead. And if you have resistance or vulnerabilities, Apply them before reducing the ward's hit points. If the damage reduces the ward to 0 hit points, any remaining damage does carry over to you, but whenever you cast an abjuration spell with a spell slot, the ward regains a number of hit points equal to twice the level of the spell slot used. Otherwise, you can also use a bonus action and expend a spell slot and regain the ward's number of hit points equal to twice the level of the spell slot expended, even without casting a spell. Otherwise, you can only create the basic form of the ward once per long rest. At 4th level of Wizard, you get access to an ability score improvement. And one of the key abilities that Ness has is some telekinetic abilities. So we're going to grab the Telekinetic feat. This boosts our intelligence by 1 point. So here's our starting ability scores. Definitely min-maxed in dexterity, constitution, and intelligence. Then we're throwing that 1 more point into intelligence. Then because of the Telekinetic feat, you get the feature Minor Telekinesis. So you learn the Mage Hand spell, and you can cast it without any verbal or somatic components. And its range is increased by 30 feet. The other feature you get from Telekinetic is Telekinetic Shove. So as a bonus action, you can telekinetically shove one creature you can see within 30 feet of yourself. When you do so, the target has to succeed a strength save or be pushed 5 feet away from you. And this is exactly how Ness throws people in Smash Bros. He does it with his mind. Then at 5th level of Wizard, you have an easier time memorizing spells with the feature Memorize Spell, and you get access to 3rd level spells. So we'll grab Fireball for another bigger peak of fire, Lightning Bolt for another bigger peak of thunder, and then to float up in a more telekinetic fashion, grab the spell Fly. Then at 6th level of Wizard, you get Projected Ward. So when a creature you can see within 30 feet of yourself takes damage, you can use your reaction to cause your arcane ward to absorb damage on that ally. So your shields can help more than just you. 7th level of Wizard gives us access to 4th level spells. So we'll grab Fire Shield and Wall of Fire for some more fiery stuff. Then for another very strong shield to wrap around yourself, grab Odaluk's Resilient Sphere. It's literally just a bubble that you pop up to take some damage. Then at 8th level of Wizard, you get access to another ability score improvement. So let's just go ahead and throw 2 more points into Intelligence. 9th level gives us access to 5th level spells. So grab Bigby's Hand so you have Master Hand incorporated somewhere in your build, as well as the spell Telekinesis. We're really focused on some telekinetic stuff, so it'd be kind of a mistake to avoid telekinesis. 10th level, thanks to being an abjurer, gives us Spellbreaker. And this feature makes it so you always have counterspell and dispel magic prepared. Additionally, you can cast Dispel Magic as a bonus action, and you can add your proficiency bonus to its ability check. When you cast either spell with a spell slot, that spell slot isn't expended if the spell fails to stop a spell. Then at 11th level of Wizard, you get access to 6th level spells. So for another Peak of Thunder, grab Chain Lightning. It's just a pretty solid lightning attack. 12th level of Wizard gives us another ability score improvement, so to help our armor class, let's throw 2 points into Dexterity. 13th level of Wizard gives us another higher level of spell casting, so we'll grab Delayed Blast Fireball for another Peak of Fire, and Teleport to just move around a little bit easier. 14th level of Wizard gives us Spell Resistance. So you have advantage on saving throws against spells, and you have resistance to all damage from spells, which is insanely strong, especially since all of those resistances will apply before transferring damage to your arcane ward. Then 15th level of Wizard gives us access to 8th level spells. We'll grab Anti-Magic Field to block even more stuff coming at us, and then follow it up with Telepathy. It's just kind of a basic spell of being able to communicate with your mind. 16th level of Wizard gives us another ability score improvement, so let's throw 2 more points into Dexterity. 17th level gives us access to 9th level spells, which is the highest level spellcasting we can get in D&D. And there's 3 spells I want to grab from this max level spellcasting. The first is going to be Gate, gives us an ability to teleport wherever we need to. Then we need the Final Smash ability that you get in Smash Bros, which we're going to replicate with Meteor Swarm. And then finally, for 1 more abjuration spell, grab Prismatic Wall. It's a shimmering, multicolored plane of light that forms a vertical opaque wall. It sheds bright light, and it can do some cool stuff, like possibly dealing some fire damage, acid damage, lightning damage, poison damage, all sorts of elemental damage. Or it can restrain enemies or blind them. All sorts of good stuff. It's just kind of a fun spell that doesn't get enough attention. 18th level of Wizard gives us Spell Mastery. So you gain 1 first and second level spell from your spell book that you can cast at its lowest level as much as you want without expending a spell slot. So you can throw in Witch Bolt because that allows you to utilize your bonus action whenever you want, and Earthbind because you're from the Earthbound video game. Then at 19th level, you get access to an epic boon. And you're a spellcaster, one of the best things you can grab is the boon of Spell Recall. It gives you a 25% chance to get a free casting of any spell that you cast that uses a 1st through 4th level spell slot. Then at 20th level, you get signature spells. These are 2 3rd level spells that you get 1 free casting of per short or long rest. So we're going to make sure we get at least 1 free casting of Fly and Fireball. Because it's Fireball, I just like Fireball. And I know that was pretty quick on the build, but I'm trying to build as many Smash Bros characters as possible. So that's how I would build Ness from Earthbound and Super Smash Bros. As a playable character in Dungeons & Dragons. As always, all of my characters are available up on Patreon, and if you made it all the way to the end of this video, let me know by hitting that like button, and I'll be here helping you roll at least 3 nat 20s in your next D&D session, especially if you want to be a boy genius and play as Ness in Dungeons & Dragons.